True tolerance. The belief in authority is so strong that many people automatically associate disapproving of something with wanting to have government make it illegal. In their private lives, most people would never dream of resorting to violence against every person they encounter who has a habit or lifestyle they find unpleasant. Nearly everyone on a regular basis tolerates choices and behaviors from others that he does not approve of. Of course, to tolerate something merely means to allow it to exist, i.e., to refrain from trying to forcibly stamp it out. It does not mean to condone it or approve of it. True tolerance is what allows people with different viewpoints and belief systems to coexist peacefully. Ironically, tolerance is often used by statists as an excuse to engage in intolerance. For example, if an employer chooses not to do business with someone based on that person's race, religion, sexual orientation, or some other general characteristics, some call that intolerance, which it is not, and then advocate that authority use the force of law to coerce the employer to hire whomever authority thinks he should. And that is intolerance because it amounts to refusing to allow a person to make his own choices about who to associate with and who to trade with. This is only one of many examples of how the belief in authority exacerbates differences and introduces violence where it would not otherwise occur. There are several nonviolent ways in which people can discourage behavior they disapprove of. Consider the example of a business owner who refuses to hire blacks, which, as repugnant as it may be, is not an act of aggression. Those who find such a policy offensive should boycott the person's business or speak out against his practices or beliefs. Instead, the common response to such a situation is for statists to petition those in authority to force supposedly fair and enlightened choices upon everyone. The same holds true for many other societal problems. The fight over whether same sex marriage should be legally recognized or outlawed is nothing but a competition in intolerance from both sides. It is not justified to forcibly prevent two men from saying they are married, nor is it justified to force anyone else to recognize such a relationship as marriage. The notion that everyone has to have the same idea of what constitutes marriage or anything else is a symptom of conformity fascism. Likewise, obscenity laws to seek to forcibly limit what people may read or view, narcotics laws, as well as much of what the FDA does, constitutes attempts to forcibly limit which substances people may ingest. Minimum wage laws try to forcibly control what two people are allowed to agree upon. Anti-discrimination laws attempt to force people into making deals and associations they do not want to make. Laws such as Americans with Disabilities Acts are attempts to use force in the name of fairness to control what services people can offer, such as shutting down a business if the owner cannot afford to install a wheelchair ramp. All such laws, all such acts of authority and government are acts of aggression, the exact opposite of tolerance. It is absurd to try to force people to be nice or fair or compassionate, not only because aggression is inherently wrong, but also because there will never be only one idea of what is nice, fair, and compassionate. To have millions of people constantly fighting over the sword of authority, each hoping to forcibly impose his will of goodness upon everyone else, has been the direct cause of most of the violence and oppression in history. Though it may seem counterintuitive, this fact is historically indisputable. Most of the evil committed throughout history has come from attempts to use authority to accomplish good things. The Constitution of the Soviet Union, for example, described an authority, which was to treat everyone equally regardless of race or religion, occupation or sex, and to preserve the individual rights of all citizens in their economic, political, and social lives. The rights enumerated in the Soviet Constitution included freedom of speech and freedom of religion, the right to work, the right to rest and leisure, the right to housing, the right to education, the right to health care, and the right of citizens to be cared for in their old age. Among other things, the real world result of that noble sounding experiment, however, was constant violent repression, harassment, intimidation, economic enslavement, forced suppression of thoughts and opinions, widespread poverty, and the murder of tens of millions of human beings, many via intentionally orchestrated starvation. The Constitution of the People's Republic of China is very similar to that of the Soviet Union, and the results were similar as well. Widespread violent repression and tyranny, as well as mass murder. The attempt by Chinese authorities to use the violence of the state to reduce population growth has had particularly horrendous and deplorable results. Tyrants have always professed to have the noblest intentions for what they do. But even good intentions, when added to the belief in authority, always result in immoral violence, sometimes to an almost incomprehensible degree. Even without all of the historical examples, it should be obvious that trying to achieve compassion and fairness and love and virtue, cooperation and brotherhood, by way of authoritarian aggression and violence is insane, and that government, by its very nature, as a tool of forcible control, can never and will never lead to justice, peace, and harmony. It is also worth noting that the political left and right, both enamored with the concept of equality, with the political right pushing for equality under the law and the left pushing for equality of outcomes. But neither actually wants true equality because they both exempt the ruling class from such equality. True equality rules out all government because a ruler and a subject obviously can never be equals. What statists actually want is equality amongst the slaves, but enormous inequality between the slaves and the masters. This again shows that they view government as being superhuman because it never occurs to them, as they push for equality for all, that the equality should also include the politicians and the police.